Well, good morning. My name is Cathy McPhillips. I live in Cleveland and I work for the Marketing Artificial Intelligence Institute. So as you can imagine, the past 9 months has been a little bit crazy for our company. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about artificial intelligence, how it can help your social media, and then some ways that I'm using it in my job. So I come to the Institute, I've been there for about 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at 2 agencies in Cleveland in a marketing roles. I owned my own business for about 13 years. And then I worked for another publishing company in Cleveland for 9 years, and then I've been here for 2. So I've kind of seen the agency side, the publishing side, the event side. We actually had an event in Cleveland last week. I was just telling someone that there were 300 people in the past 3 years. This is our 4th year doing it, and we had 700 people this year. So things have changed a lot since November. So I'm excited. So thank you for having me. I come to you with 0 government experience, but I think a lot of the things that I want to talk to you about have some really good applications for what you could be doing within your organizations. So the AI Institute, we are a marketing, education, and event company focused on making AI approachable and actionable. And that just simply means we want you to have resources on how to do your job better, how to use some of these tools, make it democratize some of these things, just make them so that you know how to use them. And if you want to use them, great. If you don't, at least you have an educated decision not to use some of these tools. So there are currently 5 of us on our team. So we're pretty lean right now. We just made 2 hires that I'm so excited about. So they're starting in a few weeks. So really, we're just here with a bunch of resources. We do have a paid event and an online education platform, but everything else is free on our website. And just real quickly, and there is a reason I'm going to tell you all this. So when I started, there were about 20,000 website visitors a month, about 20,000 subscribers. So we've doubled quite a few things. Every 3 weeks, we have an Intro to AI for Marketers class, which is a free virtual class. We do via Zoom, and we started it in November of 2021. And we have since had 27 classes. And at the first one, we had about 100 people. And that was both through some paid media, trying to get people to learn about us. Up until 2023, we have had 8 classes so far this year, averaging 1,500 registrants. So again, this has just exploded in tell me how I can do some of these things. So our next one is next Wednesday, the 9th. And it's free. If you like some things you hear today and you want to have your teams learn some more, that's a great free resource for you. At the end of that, Paul, our CEO, does talk about some paid things we have, which is just like a marketing thing. Here's the next thing you could do on your journey, but none of it is a necessity. I mentioned our Marketing AI conference where we've had 800 attendees over the first 3 years, and we had more than 700 this year. So things are growing. And we've got an online academy. Our Slack community, we just crossed 3,700 this morning. And that is just a group of folks who were in Slack. We say, I am trying to figure out how to work on some social media for my company. There is one of us, and we're trying to do X, Y, and Z. Does anyone have a tool that they could suggest? So just a great network of folks. Again, it's free that people could turn to learn from others and commiserate. Also just, and a lot of the folks that have met online for the past few years met in Cleveland last week. So it was really exciting to get that group together, and we raised some money. I can probably take that off at some point. So your life is AI assisted, and your marketing will be too. So many of the things we're doing on a day-to-day basis use artificial intelligence, and we probably realize it in some instances, but don't in others. Everything from YouTube suggesting videos, so all your social channels, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, all these things you're on, your For You page, your homepage, all these different things, your feeds are all customized to your preferences, who you follow, what you click on, what you engage, what you spend time on. It knows you. And so, whether if you have Teslas, that AI is powering some of your Teslas, Zoom, transcribing your meetings, all of these things use artificial intelligence in some capacity. So my 3 favorite ways that AI is embedded in my life is Spotify. I love music. I am listening to music all the time. My favorite thing last week for our event was making our playlist for the 3-day event. And my Discover Weekly is always coming to me saying, here's some, we know you like this artist, this artist, this artist. Here's some songs that you might like by some new artists, which I love finding new artists. And then they also put together playlists of songs that I play on a regular basis. including Maggie Rogers, who I'll see at Red Rocks next week in Colorado, which I'm very excited about. And then I'm in 3 book clubs, and which is, I need to leave one of them, but it's too many. 3 is too many. Love them all, but 3 is too many. And I have to pick books every, 3 times a year. And it's a lot. It's pressure. Is anyone in book clubs? You have to pick the books. It's like, okay, you have to feed them and have to pick a book and make sure that they're all happy. And it's stressful. So Goodreads has been a great resource for me. It sees what I've read. It sees what I rate, how I rate the books, and it gives me great suggestions on books I could be reading and suggesting. And then Waze. I drove down 2.5 hours this morning from Cleveland, and Waze got me here. And a lot of it is user generated from people saying there's a police officer, there's construction, there's things like that. But also Waze uses AI to figure out routes, figure out all these different things. So those are the 3 ways that I'm really using AI on a day-to-day basis. So now going to work. So Demis Hassabis is the founder of Google DeepMind, and he simply says that AI is the science of making machines smart. And from a marketer's perspective and from a business perspective, we like to say that marketing AI, which is what our company is focusing on, is the science of making marketers smart. And that just simply means the technology that we're using today is very focused on us inputting something into a machine, us building lists for our email databases, us doing all of these very manual processes for our technology to work for us. Where marketing AI is learning as we're doing things. It is making intelligent decisions without us constantly being in there making, prompting it to do something. So some ways that AI is helping us today. It is, one, it's helping us drive costs down and drive revenue up, which is a beautiful thing. It is helping us get more out of our technologies. It's making us more human, which sounds really silly, but I'll go into more about how I feel like that AI can help us save time doing something so we can focus on the things that we actually love doing in our jobs. Reducing time on data-driven repetitive tasks. A lot of us do the same things in our job every day, every week, every month. We're running the same reports. We are doing the same processes, and AI can help us, especially in those types of situations. So there are so many AI tools out there. I mean, this is, you can't even read it. I can't, even this close, I can't read what all these are. So there are so many options on things we could be doing. There are new tools that come out every single day. There are tools that merge every single day. So this was obsoleted the second it was published. So it's like, how do we as marketers, business leaders, practitioners say, like, how do we even start? And this was published in February. And I know that it's, way outdated by now. But for the past few years, we've been talking to folks and they've been saying, I just don't understand where to start. What if I pick a tool? What if we invest in a tool and we onboard our company and then it goes away, it changes, something better comes along? Or I don't understand what any of this means. I'm not ready to get started. And what I'm just not even going to touch it. And then November 30th hit and ChatGPT came out. How many of you have tried ChatGPT? How many of you use it on a regular basis? I use it every single day. That's great. Do you like it? What are some ways that you're using it?
I used it to write a grant after action report and put all the data that we collected. I inputted the original grant narrative and it said, complete this as a report, and it drafted that for me.
Amazing.
I needed a little editing, but it was pretty good.
And it should need editing. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else commented to some of my piece cases?
We run all our social media posts through it.
You do?
Just to enhance them.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good job at AP style guide editing.
Have you tried? So I've tried writing, because we use AP style, but one of our clients uses Chicago style. So I've tried seeing the differences, and it's been wrong a lot.
It's been wrong. It'll get you close enough.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
If you run it through 7 pages, you don't have to do nearly the editing.
Correct. But it has made me realize that humans are we're safe.
For a while.
We need us more than we realize. Okay, so ChatGPT came along on November 30th, and that gave people were like, oh, this is what AI is. I kind of can understand, I can grasp a little bit about what AI is and how it can impact me. So I'm going to jump in. I think that's when our intro to AI class numbers started spiking. The people, and there's so much more to it than generative AI, but it's a really good, understandable, tangible place to start. So a lot of the things we talk to people about is debunking the myth that AI is here to replace us. It really is here to augment what we're doing. But every day in the news is AI is taking your job, anxiety about people losing their jobs, and then it's all over the news. So I'm here to tell you that there are some roles I believe that AI could obsolete, but I feel like there's more opportunities for us to augment AI in our life, use AI to augment some of our jobs so we can really truly focus on things that we love doing. So this is JK. I used to work with JK a couple of years ago, and that's Laura. I don't want to leave Laura out, but this is about JK. So he and I worked, he is a creative director at the company I used to work for. And once a month, we would sit down and we would meet at a coffee shop. We were remote at the time, and we would have creative brainstorming meetings. And fast forward to now, JK, well, a few months ago, JK was like, I'm not touching AI. I'm in creative. It's not taking over my job. It's not creative like I am, et cetera. So I said, okay, let me run this scenario by you. So we would meet at a coffee shop once a month. We would talk about what's coming up the next quarter from a creative standpoint, what we needed to work on programming for, what design elements needed to take place, all these different things that we needed. And I had an idea a couple of years ago for our event theme. Our event theme was connections, talking about making connections with people, making connections with your customers, making connections with your brand, to your marketing that you're doing, et cetera. So we had these posters at our event. We had all these different things. And I said, okay, I'm coming with this vision of what I want what all this creative to look like. And JK said, okay, I have a better idea. What if we did this? And he started sketching it out. And I was like, okay, that's not only what I was picturing in my head, but 1,000 times better. And then I said, okay, but what if we did this? And we went back and forth and back and forth. You've all sat in brainstorm meetings where you have those moments. And I left where he and I worked together. He doesn't have me the person that replaced me. She's amazing. I'm more of the creative mindset, creative mind, and she has skills much better than I have in other areas. But he does not have me anymore to sit down in these meetings. So I said, what if you used Midjourney or DALL-E 2 as your creative partner? And you were able to sit down and you were able to type in some things and get some ideas coming out of these machines based on prompts that you put into it. Could you take those outputs and either use them for something or say, these are actually awful, but I have a really good idea now. Could you use these tools as your creative partner in crime? Could you get this output and then take it to something even bigger and better? And he was like, yes, I would. I don't want to use this output, but it gives me a way to bounce my ideas off of something or someone. So he has used it a lot. I talked to him last week. He's used it a lot to have some of those conversations and have those outputs. He will then take those ideas, go into InDesign, go into Photoshop, do all his things and create his unique piece of content that he wants to use it. He also uses it, excuse me, for blog post header images. He was using stock photography, and he said, I'd much rather use an AI output that is specific to exactly what I want it to be versus me going to spend to do some stock photography. So there are some ways he's been using it to his advantage. Okay, so there are a lot of things I'm doing on a day-to-day basis where AI is helping me. It's helping me streamline some routine tasks, such as optimizing for search. We have lots of blog post ideas. I'm sure there are many topics that you are thinking about writing about for your constituents, for your customers, and you're like, okay, we could talk about this, this, and this, and you're like, our best guess and our best information based on the analysis we have of our customers is that we should focus on these three things. And AI is able to take out that subjectivity, and they're able to say to you, here are the things here's the order you should be doing this in. Here's some keywords you should be focusing on. And one of the tools that we use is called Market Muse. It's rather expensive, although I think they're coming out with a small business version of it that is more affordable. But it's a great way to optimize for search and look at the numbers in ways that you just don't have the bandwidth to do because it analyzes so much information. Testing subject lines and copy variations. One of the things I've been doing is I'll write my blog post or my newsletter, and I will write my subject line, which is literally the hardest thing. because you want to make sure that they're opening it, they're clicking on it, and that's the first thing they're going to see. I'd rather write 1,000 words of a blog post than write a subject line. So you write it and then you're like thinking about what's a compelling subject line. So I've been writing my subject line and then going into ChatGPT. And I'll show you the list of tools we use, but I go into a generative AI tool and I have input my whole article and I say, can I have 5 variations of a subject line? I will then take one of the ones or more that AI wrote. And again, I will tweak it ever so slightly if it's a little bit off. And I will run it through our email platform and I will track opens and clicks. And sometimes the AI is better, sometimes what I'm writing is better. So I'm trying to actually get my prompting to be better. So the output, the AI prompt is better for me because all things equal, if open rates are the same and clicks are the same, I'm saving the time. I'm saving the headache of me having to sit there and think of a subject line. So it's been really, really helpful for me. And it's always good to test to see what's resonating with your customers. Amplifying content, that's just simply crafting social posts, repurposing some of the things you're doing, which is next on. I know this is like you're writing this amazing piece of content, and like if you don't get it out there, no one's going to see it. So you're just wasting all the time you spent crafting that amazing piece. And then as demographics shift, translation is becoming very, very important in many areas. So when we think about AI, we like to break it down into three groups: language, vision, and prediction. And language is things like ChatGPT is language, natural language generation and processing. Sentiment analysis would be looking at a bunch of customer reviews online or some feedback you received from something and really trying to pull out some sentiment that is just, again, saving time. Like, what's the overarching theme? What was the feeling? What was happening? Speech to text is just what it sounds like. It's transcription. Analyzing text, summarizing text. I use a lot of summarization when I am doing interviews. So I'll be interviewing folks and I use the transcription tool to record my interviews and then transcribe them. I then do a text summarization to pull out some key points so I can draft an article or whatever I'm going to be using with it, which is super helpful. And again, it gives me that starting point. I'll go in and I'll give it a hard edit and I'll put it into my own words, but if it's able to help me craft how things should look, it's really beneficial to me. Text to speech is fascinating. So I'll talk about our podcast in a little bit, but text to speech would be, I have trained this one tool on our CEO's voice. He hosts our podcast, and there was something he said in one of our podcasts where he said the person's name wrong. Sorry, I want to go back to you. And so I fixed the text in this tool, and it overwrote his voice, what he said wrong, and fixed it. And that's capable. You can do things like that. Now it's pretty amazing. Translation, like I mentioned, and voice recognition. When I get to the podcast, a lot of this I'm showing you in our podcast. Vision is things like analyzing what's in the image. It's identifying what's in the image. Video generation. There is a tool called runway.ml, and it can do things like you can type in a prompt such as a family walking through a town square, eating ice cream on a beautiful sunny day. And it will create a short form video for you of that. It's remarkable. They also can, one example I just used recently was I wanted to use a painting in a presentation I was doing. It was a portrait, but I just didn't want like a box with like text on a white background. I wanted that image to take up the whole page, but the image was portrait. It just didn't fit with a landscape presentation. So I went into Runway and I said, blow out the background of this image so it fits on this larger background. And it just made the rest of it like it was in this room where this woman was sitting in a portrait. And it was like, how is this even possible? But it was. So there's lots of things like that, very specific use cases. But if you wonder if AI could do it, it probably can. And a lot of it is just me Googling saying, I'm trying to do this. And is there a tool that can help me with this? And the answer usually is like, yes. And then a lot of data. When I first started in marketing, it was like, I wish we just had more data on our customers. Now it's like, we have so much data, we don't even know where to start to analyze it. So a lot of these tools are very good at forecasting. Right now I'm working on a project where, like I mentioned, our event was last week and we said, okay, so we're trying to book our event for next year. We've got the location of the convention center in Cleveland. We had 700 this year. And our CEO was like, double it since we did this year. And I was like, okay, it's a lot of pressure, but is that possible? And actually, we've gotten some folks saying, someone said yesterday to me, they said, big prediction, you're gonna hit 3,000 next year. Awesome, except that we only have half the convention center. So we need to make a decision in the next few months on, do we expand our space? Do we cap it? What's our break even from a revenue standpoint? All these questions as businesses, we're still trying to make sure we need to make money. Because if we buy the whole convention center and sell 1,500, we're up a creek. So we need to make sure that we're looking at all these different things, like what are the deadlines for increasing the space? What's the convention center? How long can they hold the space for us? So we are using Code Interpreter, which is a tool through OpenAI, to build out this model of what are those points that we're able to make to, this year when we first opened registration, we sold 25 tickets in a month, in the first month. We knew it was going to be slow, but it's obviously it increased. So what would be the point this year, like in the first month, if we sell 100, 200, is that number? We would say, okay, this is a thing. We actually are going to increase more than we were anticipating. So we're trying to find these tools that can help, again, take our bias out of it and help us forecast what we're doing. I'm looking for patterns in the data. AI is really good at finding patterns in data that we might not even see. One example might be me opening up a certain email, always clicking on a certain topic in our email newsletters, even though that's really not something that, for all you know about me, it might not even be something you think I'd be interested in. It's finding things that the human eye can't necessarily see. Personalizing content obviously is very important. And then, like I said, recommender engines are a really great use of example of AI. So getting started. There are two ways to think about getting started with AI. One is a problem-based model and one is a use case model. And to be honest, the use case model is what I am doing the most because I'm very tactical in a lot of the marketing that I'm doing as a one-person team. And so really what I'm doing is I'm identifying pockets in my job of where I know AI can help. It's going to save me time. It's going to save me money. It's going to save me resources. And in the instance of our podcast, it's filling a knowledge gap because I don't know how to edit video. I did not know how to edit videos, but now I do because I'm using this amazing tool. My business problem might be I'm a marketing team of one. How am I going to get everything I'm doing in the day done? I was also hired to grow our business. So with all the marketing I'm doing, how can I get all this done? And then I go to the use cases and I identify points along the way where I'm able to use some AI to augment my work. So I alluded to this earlier, but is it data-driven? Is it repetitive? Is it trying to make a prediction? If you have one of these things in a task you're looking for, there's a good chance AI can help you. If there's two or three, you definitely have an AI use case and there should be a tool available to help you. The thing you need to think about is what's going to make the biggest impact on the business, what's going to make the biggest impact on your time, and because there's probably use cases for so many things you're doing, but it's really trying to pinpoint what's going to have the biggest impact on you. So in my day-to-day job, my use cases are our podcasts, social media, ideation for our content. I've actually been using it a lot for our marketing strategy, repurposing, and then our email marketing. So this is available on our website. It's a very rudimentary spreadsheet, but it's very useful for us where we go through and we write down, here's our use case, what's the category, email, social media, and analysis, sales, et cetera. We write down what we're trying to do, estimate the number of hours, and then we focus on two things. What's the value to intelligently automate this task? And what is our ability to do it based on our team, our bandwidth, our budgets, et cetera. And we rank it 1 to 5. So we try to find those places where 5s, so there's 2 5s under create smart newsletters on a 1-to-1 basis. And what we did here was, do you all have email databases where you send to your, so when you do that, you are building lists saying on various things, whether it's folks on the east side or the west side or in different wards or any number of things. So you are going in and you're building your lists. And if you're segmenting the emails, if you're segmenting the messaging, you are crafting the messages based on that group of people. So for what we're doing, we have lists based on people's industries, people, if they're a B2B versus a B2C company, if they've attended our event in the past or if they haven't. So a number of actions or identifying features, demographics, like firmographics on our customers. So we're taking the time to think about these lists, build the lists, and then write email copy based on each of those different, what would appeal mostly to those groups. We then started using a tool called rasa.io, and Rasa is able to take all our email addresses, say we're all in the same group, and say, Cathy only opens emails that talk about community, like recreation in the community. And you only open ones that talk about community development and other things. So it's able to know what you're opening versus what I'm opening. And then the next email that goes out, I'll get relevant content. I'll get more content revolved around recreation. You'll get more content talking about community development. So it's building the lists for us without us having to do it. We're building the logic and building the rules, but it's able to identify you're getting the content that you want to receive. I'm getting the content I want to receive. If anyone subscribes to Medium, they do a lot of that. Their content they send me every week is remarkable. It's always on exactly what I'm talking about. From AI to pickleball, it knows exactly the links that I click on. It's fascinating. So we've started doing that with our customers, and our open rates have increased because we're able to send them more customized and personalized messages based on what they're interested in reading about. And there's also a way that we can make sure that there are articles or there is copy that goes to everybody if there's a message we want to make sure that everyone sees. So it is you can personalize. You can also have one just blanket section that goes to everyone. This is our podcast. This is Paul Reitzer, our CEO, Mike Kaput, our Chief Content Officer, and up until October of last year, we had an interview style podcast where we would find guests, bring them in, they talk about different things, and it was very time consuming. And then we switched to a news format in October of 2022. And Paul said to me, I said, who's going to produce this? And he's like, you. And I'm like, excellent. I don't know how to do any of this. So he said, well, let's see if AI can help us. So we found this tool called Descript. You're done. Has anyone heard of or used Descript? Wait till you do this. So every Sunday, Mike and I work together to, well, I'm going to take that back. The podcast goes live on Tuesday mornings. Between Tuesday afternoon, and the following Monday when we record, we've got this link this chat we have where if we read articles about AI, the format of it, they cover 3 big news stories in artificial intelligence. Mike breaks it down, kind of summarizes what the story is. Paul and Mike banter back and forth on what does it mean for marketers, what does it mean for businesses, and what should we be looking out for. So it's very, very helpful for me as a marketer. So Mike works on the brief. They record on Monday morning. Monday, a few minutes after they're recording, I get the Zoom link and they say, here you go. Let's, go finish up the production. So this is inside of Descript. So what I do is go to my desktop, I just grab my file and I drop it in here. And I wait a few minutes and it transcribes the whole entire thing. It's like 95% right. There's a lot of misspellings with things like GPT-4, OpenAI, all Paul Reitzer. I mean, you can never spell Reitzer right. Mike, his last name is Kaput. It always says put. And just so there's certain things that I've learned that it always gets wrong, but it also gets a lot right. Because previously in my old job, if we had to transcribe something, we did it. We listened and we wrote, and it took forever. So it does give us a really good starting point. So while it's transcribing, it also asks how many speakers do you have? And there's 2 of them. So I wait a few minutes. The transcription comes through and it says, would you like to identify their voices? And I say yes. And it plays a 10-second clip and I say, that's Paul. And another 10-second clip and I'm like, that's Mike. And then it goes through on the transcript and it shows, who's speaking. And that's beneficial for me because we also transcribe our videos and we also include the whole transcript in our blog post. And as a reader, if someone, wants to read that, it's much easier to find out, to find those sections, those natural breaks, if their names are there versus just this big long blob of text. So it transcribes it for me. And then it comes through, and there you can see, this is not the podcast, but it looks exactly the same with the text. And then there's this feature they have called Studio Sound up in the right, you see there. And I toggle that on. And again, this takes probably 5 minutes. And what this does is it levels out the sound. So Paul is usually recording in his office, at home, in his basement. And Mike is usually in the office. And even though they both have the same microphone, the same headset, everything, they just sound different because they're in different places. And what Studio Sound is able to do, and inevitably Paul's like, well, my neighbor's cutting his lawn. So you just hear the lawnmower in the background. So you click on Studio Sound, it removes the background noise, it levels out their voices, and it does things like, I don't know how to, shift the sounds and all those things like a true video producer. So it's able to help me, it fills that knowledge gap. Again, same of me not knowing how to do that, but it does make the podcast sound like it's professionally produced. And we pay $25 a month for Descript, which is, so, and just the amount of time it saves me on all these different things is worth every single penny of it. Here's my favorite feature. So this was one that I deleted. So Paul says, I forget the guy's name that was doing the interview, Scott something. I was like, I can't say that like on the podcast. So in Descript, all I have to do is I have to go through, so pre-Descript, if I wanted to edit a video, like I did a video for my kids' end of the year band concert. And of just the summary of the whole season. So if I wanted to change anything, I needed to go down here and I needed to, clip here, drag it. Hopefully I got it to the right spot and I have to click delete. Descript, I just highlighted the sentence and I hit delete and it flipped the video. So another example is every time when they start the podcast recording, Paul says, this is episode 57, right? Mike says, yes. How was your weekend? Good, good, good. And I just go through and delete all that and it gets me to the right starting point. There's still some tinkering I need to do. Like there's, right over here, there's just some dead air, but I've learned how to, go through manually and just drag that over to here just to remove some of those spaces. So there are some things I need to do manually, but the bulk of it is done through using some of these AI tools. Like I said, I could go in through here and overdub something if Paul said it incorrectly or Mike said it incorrectly or anything. We actually just had a sponsor who, after we recorded, asked us if we could go through and we could change the ad that we had live read. And I was like, we can't. I could have gone back and done the overdub. I ended up just going through and clipping and inserting the new audio. But I'm trying to find more ways I could be using this tool more than I already am. And something as simple as, we also put our podcast on YouTube. And so this is just the general image that we put on it. And then I also break out those 3 sections into 3 separate videos. So we get 4 videos out of every podcast episode. And this is in Canva. And my friend JK, the graphic designer, he says, whenever I see you use Canva, it hurts. I'm like, but I don't know how to do this kind of stuff, but it does. So it's okay. It's okay, right? So Paul is in our office. Mike's on a brick background. And I know it doesn't look like they're together. I'm fully aware of that. But in Canva, you can remove the background image. You can remove the background from images. So now at least it looks like they're, somewhat together. And that's AI. So a lot of the things that we're using, AI is playing a big part in what we're doing. And this is a tool called Writer. And I've been tinkering with this. So after I get the video on YouTube, I put it into Writer's Recaps feature, drop in the YouTube link. This took about 10 minutes, longer than I thought, but still took 10 minutes. I didn't spend 2 hours writing it. It gave me takeaways of the podcast. And I was like, this is remarkable because I do those summary posts every week for the podcast. What I didn't like is that it gives you 4 takeaways. I got 1 takeaway on topic 1. No, 2 takeaways on topic 1, 2 takeaways on topic 2, and 0 on topic 3. And I was like, okay. So I had to go through and write a summary of the 3rd topic from the podcast. And then I got smarter. And I said, okay, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to I'm going to upload topic 1 as a video, topic 2 as a video, topic 3, and then merge those together into a blog post. So I'm learning how to use these tools. I'm getting smarter with using the tools so that the blog post even faster. Well, that's horrible. Grainy. And then I just found a tool called Gloss AI, And what Gloss AI is, we talked about repurposing content, is I could upload the video into Gloss, and what it does is it creates short snippet, short form videos for me to use on social media. And what I really liked about it was there was one snippet that it did where Paul said, and then the rest of the sentence. And I was like, it really needed the line before it for that actually to make sense in the video. So previously I would have had to go into Descript or something, recut that video, find that start and ending point, clip that video. What Gloss was able to do, I could just go in and I could just take the little cursor where the sentence started, drag it up to the sentence before it, and it cut the video. So it was remarkable. And what it did was it found those clips itself. It read the whole entire transcript of the video, and it determined what the most poignant moments are, or the most the best summary of the podcast. And it was able to do the videos. It was great. We just used it for our event last week. And then ChatGPT. I use it all the time to write social posts because we have between 5 and 7 blog posts a week. It's a time suck. So I do things like write me 6 tweets, 2 LinkedIn posts, 1 Facebook post for this article, and I'll cut and paste the article. And so here are the social media posts you requested. So this was the episode I was on, I filled in for Mike a few weeks ago. So a couple things I liked. I liked how, and I added things, I've learned how to say, add Twitter handles, add hashtags, go easy on the emojis. ChatGPT loves emojis. And all these different things, add our hashtag marketing. It was hashtagging marketing AI show, all is one hashtag. We just like hashtag marketing AI. So I've been getting better at prompting it. And once I'm done with this, I cut it and paste it into an Excel spreadsheet because I upload that into HubSpot to schedule everything. And when I do this, it actually cuts and pastes the numbers into Hub. And this is silly, but I'm getting better at prompting it. Where I said, don't number the tweets, use bullet points. Bullet points don't go into Excel for some reason. So I'm learning how to better prompt the system into writing these things for me. And I'll say things like, be persuasive, be engaging, be exciting. It used to leave a placeholder for links for me to drop the link in. I don't need that because that's in a different field. So I said, I don't need a link placeholder. So I'm just getting smarter on how I'm using it. So this is an example of me editing it. 6 tweets, appealing to marketers by Mike, include his Twitter handle, relevant hashtags, minimal to no emojis, no link placeholder, keep it under 254 characters. And that gives me what I want. So I've learned to be specific in what you're asking. Remember who you're engaging with. Are you writing these for to talk about attendees at your event, people you're trying to get to read something or watch something and know what you're doing? And the $20 a month for GPT-4, I think, is worth every single penny. It's such a different output than what GPT-3 is giving. So if you have the budget to use GPT-4 upgraded to Pro, I would highly recommend that. And then I mentioned this earlier, is I make sure that our videos have captions on them, because a lot of people, if they are hard of hearing, they would like to read it. If they are on the train, on the bus, should be doing something else, they're watching this instead. It's good to have words, so it's really helpful. It's been great for our numbers. So this is what I predict that I saved. I predict that based on what I am able to do and all the things I wouldn't have been able to do, like there's no way I could have written 4 blog posts per week focused just on our podcast, even though it is our biggest piece of content every week. It's I don't have 20 hours a week to be doing this thing. I've gotten this from 20 hours down to 17 hours. So I'm spending 3 hours a week on our podcast. I'm getting all of these things. So it's pretty cool about, just how I'm making all these changes. And I think this can translate to a lot of the things that you're doing on small teams, doing marketing, even if marketing isn't especially if marketing is not your full-time job. So, and the team has this, and you can get this as well. But these are all the tools that I talked about. I didn't talk about Writer or Jasper, or Gloss or Copy.ai, but I will. But they're all similar to how I would use a ChatGPT. And then Celtra is one we've played around with, we haven't used. One of the things we do a lot is paid ads. And Celtra can take a 600 by 600 paid ad and it could turn it into 728 by 90, it could turn it into a mobile ad, it can do all these things that can resize it for you. And there are a lot of tools that can do that, but Celtra is kind of in a league zone. It's amazing what it can do. And what else? So like I mentioned, we are really wanting to make sure that everyone can access our content. We're really focusing on it. Can we make our meta descriptions more robust? Instead of saying person sitting at a conference, watching a presenter, how can we make that meta description so exciting? So someone reading it who can't see the image clearly feels like they're really experiencing the image. So we're using AI for that. Testing promotional copy for the event, similar to the A/B testing of the subject lines. I put all my promotional copy for our conference into copy.ai. I said, can you rewrite some of this? And it rewrote it in words that I necessarily wouldn't have used to describe our event. I was like, that's interesting. I mean, same end message, but just different phrases. So I started testing it. And again, same thing, because maybe, even when I try to sound different when I'm writing, I still sound like me. So I'm getting better at using some of these tools to pull out some ways of experience, writing about things that isn't just in my natural language. And it's great because, again, I've been testing it, and there have been some things that the AI has taught me that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's actually better. And again, same thing, all things equal, if they're both performing the same, I'm going to reinvest some time elsewhere in my life. The subject lines, optimizing ad campaigns. A lot of these tools, if you book Google Ads, you're going in once a day, once a week, whatever it is, to make sure that your ads, which one's performing better, moving money around, doing all these things. And there are tools that can do that for you. Analyzing customer data faster, writing more compelling sales copy. Our director of partnerships, she's been using Lavender. She'll put her messaging through Lavender, and it'll find some points in Lavender or in her copy. Try this. And she has actually seen an uptick in responses, at least to that first or second message she's sending through. I have Grammarly running 24 hours a day whenever I'm writing. It's my best assistant, helping me figuring out, the right style, or apparently I've got an issue with commas. It tells me that I'm doing it wrong. So I'm getting better. And then, like I mentioned, JK, creating images there instead of using the stock photography. So again, there's quite a few things we have free. I'm not pushing our website, but there is a ton of free stuff there. We just created some blueprints, AI for content marketing, AI for manufacturing. We're doing both marketing discipline as well as industries. AI for CMOs. So we're trying to get into some niches, saying you have a particular, everyone has a lot of marketers have a lot of similarities, but when you get into regulated industries and things like that, there are some challenges as well as some opportunities. So we're trying to find fit in some of those niches and help some folks there. That is me. So I just wanted to take some time to answer questions and specific use cases you might have that I might be able to answer. Yep.
You said you were doing the playlist. Do you have to buy those music?
I just use Spotify. And then, we're not, I think it's okay to use Spotify at our event because we're not monetizing the playlist. We're just using it as an experience. But yeah, even that, I can start putting in some songs I really wanted in there. And then underneath it, it would say, here are 10 more recommendations of songs for you. It's amazing what technology can help us with. I went through a lot of stuff. So,
But is there a particular tool? So let's say like on our webpage, it's the answer to about 90% of our incoming questions from residents. But most AI I've seen to really scrape. I can't find one that scrapes our webpage. And so I can just say, answer this question, and it pops up with an answer to common questions, or can scrape a different root URL, let's say.
AI technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know of any that do that? I have not been successful, just kind of like analyzing our data, and I can ask it anything. So the resident doesn't have to go searching. I can just say, here's your answer.
So the way large language models work, like ChatGPT, is that this was how it was described to me. Like that actually makes sense. Is that imagine there's someone in a house with no windows, no doors, can't see anything, smartest person you ever met. and you're outside and you say, what should I wear today? And the person in the house is like, clothes. Like, okay, well, it's 90 degrees out. Okay, we'll wear shorts and a t-shirt or something like that. Well, it's raining. Okay, take a raincoat. And the more information you're able to give this person, the more information is able to specifically answer the question you're really answering. So that's how prompting works. Like the more you have to, write me a tweet. Okay, that's not even, you have to get very specific on what you're looking for. And those language models are trained on all this data. We're not even sure what that data is as the users. We just know that there was this large data set that it was trained on. So there's that portion of this. So it doesn't have a specific answer to a specific question like you're asking. So if I was going to read all this information on a certain topic for a school project or something, and I was reading like 10 books, some articles, listening to this, and I had to write a paper without sources necessarily, giving my like an opinion piece. I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not plagiarizing what I was reading because I'm synthesizing it, putting it in my own words. And that's what ChatGPT is too. It's like, it doesn't know where it got it from. It just knows it learned it. And so the best way, I am getting back to answer your question, the best way to get a tool to understand exactly the information that you want it to know is for you to create your own large language model, input all of your information, and then do it that way, which is the next phase of this, I think, both from a data protection standpoint, as well as you getting customized outputs that you're looking for, is to build something yourself. And an open AI would be someone that's going to probably do that next. That gets a little bit out of my knowledge.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah. A local magazine in Cleveland, they actually just are working on something where they input, I think they might have used Writer, where they input their last few years of blog content and article content into Writer so that their new hires, when they write an article about a certain topic, they can then run that article through Writer, and Writer will put it in the tone and style of this magazine. So they're focusing less on, they want the person to get facts, the story, all this, and then they're going to put it through and they're going to have Writer put it in their tone. Writer's really good for teams because you can put a lot of that information in, like words you should use, use this instead of this, or we call our restaurant, we don't call them our customers, we call them our guests, like things like that, that certain companies have certain words they want to use. So Writer's good for teams. I just learned this last week that Writer and Jasper were both at our conference. And I went up to the person at Jasper and I said, if someone asked me what's the difference between Writer and Jasper, what would you say? He's like, oh, we're both good tools. It's like, we really are, depending on what you want, depending on what user interface you're looking for, user experience, we're very similar. He said, very generally speaking, he said, if you're trying to have creative content written, Jasper performs a little bit better. If you are very technical, Writer's a better tool. He said, but they're both off the same models, large language models. But he said, so really it's just whatever. Like I like copy.ai because it was the first one that I used. And I got used to how it works. So it's just playing around with it. And so many of them right now have free 2-week trials. If you're just getting started, ChatGPT obviously is free. There's a free version. But copy.ai, we've got a blog post on our website of like 40 free tools. They either are free indefinitely or they have 2-week trials and things like that. So I did do that for a while. I was just 2 weeks, delete, 2 weeks, delete, just to test them out to see which one I liked. So there are so many options out there.
What do you use for your stock photography? Do you use something you like best?
For the stock photos, I've used Pexels, Pexels, and that's not any AI, but it's a good place to start. And then Unbounce. But again, we've been trying to veer away from the stock photos to do more generated images through some of the tools.
So when you were saying you use this for the A and B like subject line, can you go through that process? Like, how do you decide which subject line to send to certain people, or do you use software that kind of breaks that out, or does everyone get both subject lines?
So it's basically random.
Okay.
It has to be a true test. We just put it in randomly. So we know, so we'll take our event database. I'll write the email about come to our event. And I will exclude people that are already registered. I'll exclude our opt-out list. I'll do all that sort of normal stuff that we would do for our email send. And then I might exclude alumni because I want to send them a different message. So once I figure out what that list is. So that's our biggest list, is that list of minus those few exclusions. And then I'll say, here's that subject line A, here's subject line B, randomize that subject line over, for the rest of this database. And then for our alumni, I'll send them a different message, and maybe I'll A/B test subject lines just with that send. But to truly test it, it should be a random who gets what.
Yeah.
And I can analyze it at the end.
It looks like you got a chat question about how do you generate those photos artistically, you said? I think that's what they said.
Oh, someone asked that, I'm sorry.
Popped
Yeah.
up.
How do I generate the images? So I'll go to DALL-E 2, DALLE2, and that's an open AI product. And then Midjourney is one I've used, and then Runway. Those are the three that I've tinkered with. And I'll just write in a prompt and say I'm writing, I just was speaking with the Chamber of Commerce up in suburb of Cleveland. And the cover, one of the things I was doing was I said, create an image of a gazebo on a town square on a beautiful sunny day, families strolling through, because I wanted to create this image. I was going to go find a stock photo or an image from their website. I'm like, I'm going to show them how this all works. And again, it's horrible. It's gotten better, but it's not really great at faces. It's horrible at hands. Horrible at hands. I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but I did find out why. Do you know why? Because faces are very, proportionate, and it has been trained on a lot of faces. It hasn't been trained on hands, and hands could be like this. It could be like this. It could be, hands aren't always in the same position. I think that's interesting. So I would rather.
Generative fill on like Photoshop is like really weird when it does hands and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. But again, the prompting needs to be pretty specific. And I've had more wrong using the image tools than I have right.
I think someone else said line too is, how do you disclose when you are using AI generated? I think they mentioned images, but also content versus AI generated. Is that something you do disclose?
We really don't, because we use from writing standpoint, our whole entire team are journalism majors. We like writing. So we don't use it a lot for writing. I'll use it a lot for ideation, outlining, trying to get something out of my head, versus writing. So we don't disclose it in our writing because we don't use it a lot. But for our images, we have, just because of what we do, we want to make sure people see like, oh, they're actually using it too. There are two websites, writer.com, not Writer, Wired magazine, so wired.com, and the city of Boston both have generative AI policies that they've published on their website saying, we will use it for this, we will use it for this, we don't use it for this. And just so their readers and customers know how they're using these tools. We don't sell your data, we don't use your data to train a model, to draw, or to, you don't put your data into these tools, et cetera. So those are two good places, Wired and City of Boston. And then the other question was, sorry, I didn't answer all of that.
Oh, no, you're fine. Okay, so it says, how do you disclose when you're using an AI generated photo? I'm very intrigued by this, but I'm also thinking about transparency working in government. They're in Boston, and they'll look for that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much,
So copywriting with images is interesting. So if you are looking at creating a logo, putting something on your website from like your core website standpoint, not necessarily a blog post, I probably wouldn't use these tools to generate images or copy, because according to US Copyright Today, and you all are in the government way more than I am, according to US Copyright Today, human created content is the only thing that's copyrightable. So if you write a blog post, draft with AI and you edit it, according to copyright law, only what you have edited can be copyrightable. So I would not use it for my core website content. If you're writing a blog post and someone takes it verbatim and puts it on their website, you say that's actually ours and AI wrote it, I don't know how you can prove it that you used AI, but you might not have a leg to stand there. For images, for our blog post images, if someone takes it and says it's yours, it says it's theirs, I'm not going to fight that. It's been a very value to me to save that time to get something creative and everything. So legal precedent's going to lag so far behind in all of these things. So it's just kind of a matter of finding the cost benefit analysis for you, making good choices, being good people. We put it on our website. It's called a Responsible AI Manifesto. And it's 12 or 13 things that we are doing as a company. We are researching the tools that we are considering using, reading their terms and conditions, reading how they're using data, to make sure that we're partnering with people that are doing the right thing, that there's some ethical, responsible arm of their business that they've thought through some of the things that that we are thinking about, that we are not going to use, input our customers' data into any of these tools until we know for certain that the data is protected. There are, 10 more of those things. I can't think of what they all are, but just like be good people, kind of messaging, and our team, we all read it and we're like, yeah, this is really important to us to make sure that we are stewards of our businesses and our customers.
Kathy, one last question in the chat. What is the video generator AI that you mentioned?
Descript.
Descript.
DE script.
Okay.
RIPT. It's my favorite. I should get paid money from them. How much we talk about it.
It sounds like your motto is basically, it's not to take away some of the workload off of you. It's more to just enhance what you already do.
Yes. And, I think my best example of that is when I first was generating copy, this was 1.5 years ago, and using it for our event. I had to write short form content for social media. I had to write some blog content. I had to write long form content for LinkedIn, and I needed an email blurb. I was like, okay, I need to get all this done today. And it's just a time suck, So I used AI to help me generate the first draft. I went through, and some of it was awful. Some of it said the event was in California. It was just wrong. But the reason I said it was in California is because many tech events, many marketing events are. So it just guessed that's where it was based on the information I had. Fine. But I still had to go through all of it and scrub it. But I estimated it saved me 4 hours of the time I would have spent doing all of that. So I very purposefully scheduled 8 customer phone calls. And said, what are you working on this year? Is there anything that you see on our website that you would like more information on? Do you see something you don't see that's really helpful? What are your pain points right now, et cetera? And those 8 phone calls basically were so valuable, just the human connection alone, making sure the customers know we care or are listening. But it did help me figure out what's our content. Here's 10 blog post topics. So I gave those to Mike and I was like, here you go. So those types of things, the human interaction, the creativity, the culture, AI is not going to replace that. Is your hand up? Okay.
So I am a one-person social media marketing department, and everyone I work with is about 20 years my senior. And a constant impasse I'm reaching is how to explain security and why this is helpful. I mean, I can get that. Can I get the money for it? Probably not. But their main concern, and we're also all based, my organization is all based in a JFS state system. So when I am approaching conversations like this, when you're talking with people who have no idea the actual helpfulness of this, how, bare minimum, do you describe data security to it's explain it like I'm 5 sort of situation. Not that my coworkers are 5, but just that this is.
So what do you think you would use it for the most?
Probably video editing, because that takes me an incredibly long amount of time. And the A/B testing and emails.
Okay. So there's really no data that could be breached when you're writing subject lines or writing social media copy or video editing unless the video contains a day-long meeting that some parts of it are private and you're trying to pull out some snippets.
Okay, that's what I assumed. I just again, it's one of the things that's.
I'm just trying to think about how to, if you're taking a blog post and turning it into social media, that blog post is living on your website anyways. All that content's already out there, so you're just repurposing some of it.
Yeah, also someone in the state recently got in trouble for using ChatGPT with like personal identifiable information of like residents. So I think, honestly, I think it's banned on my computer anyway, so that one's out. But they're all just terrified of anything AI, so it's just kind of.
And really all AI is a smarter technology. So if you're already using an email system, if you're using Agorapulse or Sprout Social or any of those things that you used lately or another tool that has AI embedded in it, it's basically you're doing the same thing. It's just helping you in a smarter way.
I love that you said that about Agorapulse because I've been trying to love it so bad, but like I love it, but some things are so static still that I just want them to be a fully.
And they're getting better.
Like, I love their blog pull feature where you can repurpose the other blogs on your social media. So now that you said that, I'm getting pulled back in.
Yes.
Several points you mentioned, that you adopted a tool or found a tool or started using a tool, and you showed the vast ecosystem that's out there, ever changing. And I noticed that a lot of the questions around the room had to do with what was the name of that again, or what was that? So could you talk a little bit about your process for exploring and vetting tools, how you landed on the ones that you did?
So again, our team is small, so we have started a monthly sit down that I implemented, which I'm very excited about, where we all talk about things we've tried in the past month, what we liked, what we didn't like. We actually started a prompt library that where I've, like with my, like I showed you with the podcast where I've written a prompt, had to fix it, written a prompt, had to fix it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm doing it the right way. I think, I'm sure next time I do it, I'll find a way to tweak it a little bit. So we started a library. We're putting all these things we're doing into a library. So if I'm out when I go to Italy in November, Mike's doing what I'm doing, that he can say, okay, I'm just going to pull what Cathy is a starting point. Or this is a very successful prompt. So we're starting to just share more information among our team on tools we've tried, tools we have liked, tools we haven't liked. If we didn't like something, why? Because if I didn't like Agorapulse, and Mike's like, oh my gosh, I love Agorapulse. Like, okay, why? So we're trying to do a lot of knowledge sharing among our team on all the different tools. And when I get going back to the Writer, Jasper, Copy.ai, ChatGPT, they all have so many similarities. It's like which one's the best for me? And I liked Copy.ai because it was the first one that I used. I just got used to it. So I think that's actually that's okay. Even if it's not the best one, the differences are so nominal. I think it's just finding the one that you like the best and understand what they're doing. The outputs will be similar. They won't be the same, but they'll be similar. And sometimes it's I'm just going to try this one, so it is a lot of trial and error. I used one and I opened it and I was like, no, that's not, I don't understand this. So it is a lot of just playing around at this stage of the game. Like Microsoft is having Copilot is coming out. They just said they're pushing it to 2024, but it's embedding AI into Office, Excel, everything, the whole Office suite. And the one thing I liked about that one was they showed a demo. You can find it online. It was like an hour long. It was so good. I was like, this is like magic. Where if you're in Excel and you have all these numbers in it and you go to do something, you'll get a little pop-up saying, are you trying to create a pivot table? And I'm like, yes, I am. And it's just doing it for you without you having to, what was the formula for pivot table again? And it's doing it for you. So it's becoming very intuitive. That's getting pushed back. So one question I get a lot is, why would I start with any of these tools today if I can just wait till Microsoft comes out with it? It's already embedded in the suite that we already have. And my answer to that would be, that could be 6 months from now, 8 months from now, and then you could just be testing that whole entire time and just kind of figuring out how to use all this stuff before it becomes part of your, just the tech that you're already using.
What software do you use for your customer management database?
We use HubSpot.
Of HubSpot?
That you use HubSpot for social media?
We use HubSpot for everything right now, but I don't like HubSpot social. Yeah, I do too.
So do you use Agorapulse at all?
I'm trying to get it because now Agorapulse syncs with HubSpot.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get Agorapulse in there.
Okay.
And I've tried lately also, or if you've tried lately.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't for me, but they're very successful. They're doing something right, but it just, I didn't love
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Because they said, good time. there's like a barometer and it says, you know, add a hashtag, okay, you're getting better, you're getting better. And it's this point of like, your tweet is good. Your tweet is great.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, that's just me inputting stuff. That's not really AI. So I'm trying to still figure out where the AI is baked into their tech. How much time is this? 10:30?
5 minutes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Were there any questions you came here? You're like, I hope I find this answer today.
I think
I kind of have a question. It kind of goes back to what you were saying about maybe some fear about AI, not quite understanding. Like, how do you explain it or encourage people who are very fearful of this? You know, saying, well, maybe it's a computer doing this. I'm not getting that human connection. You know, it's kind of like getting people that would prefer a handwritten thank you compared to a thank you through an email. How do you start kind of turning that tide towards AI and what it can do? Or like what's the talking points I could say to people? Or, you know, how do I explain that or encourage that with some people who are just so afraid or maybe more resistant to technology or resistant to changes?
Yeah, I think I would say, you know, just from a social media standpoint, if I could save a half hour a week or an hour a week of having it write content for me to amplify content that needs to go on social, but really the idea of social media is to be social with your customers. If I can invest that hour in actually being online and talking and being engaging with folks versus the writing part of it, like the tedium, then that's more valuable to me to be able to have those connections. So from that side of things, I'm actually being more human. So that's one way to look at it. And again, you're still having that pulse on everything that's being output. Everything that gets output needs to be checked for accuracy, for bias, for all these things that are very, very important. You know, people that just use outputs verbatim, they're not going to be around long. There are a lot of people in the blogging space that are like using AI for everything and not checking it. It's wrong. And you can tell. You can obviously tell that it's been written out by a computer and hasn't been edited. So.
All right, well, if we don't have any questions, please, let's give Cathy a round of applause. Thank you, Cathy. That's great. And now you all can follow me. We'll head back to the town hall. Excuse me, you'll get a break and then we'll go to our next session. Thank you again. It's very.
It reads all your emails and